What is the intersection between parking spaces and hungry stomachs in North America? It's called reef technology. It operates about 5,000 lots of garages in US and abroad, but it's using its space now to dominate a new growth segment of the restaurant industry, what we call as ghost kitchens. Reference Technologies works with Wendy's, Burger King, Nathan's Famous, among others. Typically, a ghost kitchen operator strikes a licensing agreement with the brands and hires cooks to make food in what we call as kitchen vessels, parked in this parking lot or other locations. The customer obviously orders food through aggregators like DoorDash or Grubhub, and the ghost kitchens suddenly go direct to customer without much infrastructure. I'm sure you know who Travis Kalanick is from the Uber co-founder, ex-CEO fame. He started something called CloudKitchens. And according to their website, here is the comparison. A typical restaurant would be 2,000 square foot, whereas a ghost kitchen would be about 200 square foot. A typical restaurant would take you $1 million to set up. A ghost kitchen can go live in $30,000. A typical restaurant would have about 25 to 30 employees. A ghost kitchen would have 3 to 4 employees. And what it would take about 12 months on a run rate of $1 million revenue to break even, a ghost kitchen would typically break even just about 4 to 5 weeks, at best 6 weeks. And it's usually very easy to set up. A restaurant would take you almost a year to set up. A ghost kitchen can go live in less than a month. What is fascinating about this space is that Kruger, who is a retail chain by itself, is now partnering with a company called virtual kitchen provider, Cluster Truck. Now they're going to offer about 80 odd variety meals, roughly delivered in 25 to 30 minutes as a promise. Now it gets more interesting. Did you hear about a company called Nugs? It is an alternative meat startup, and it's got some really big investors backing it up. But even then, by mid-2020, even in the height of the pandemic when everything was online and digital and contactless, they struggled to establish a presence in retail and fast food stores. Now that's where it gets interesting. Their CEO then focused on trying to figure out how do we address this issue of not being able to dominate the retail segment, but then also establish this alternative meat segment. In comes ghost kitchens. So they're now setting up ghost kitchens in Los Angeles where their product, which was sold as pre-cooked food or frozen food in retail, now becomes actually cooked food because somebody is cooking them through the ghost kitchen and delivering to the customers. And they're going to experiment with that format. Now, what's interesting is it completely changes their business model to go direct to customer, and suddenly they're in the restaurant business, not in the processed food business. Now, that you heard that right, $1 trillion. So can Walmart be far behind? In Canada, Walmart is using its store locations to create ghost kitchens in those locations and then partner with food aggregators to suddenly become a food delivery business. Because as you know, 6 out of every 10 Americans live within 10-mile radius or a 5-mile radius of Walmart. Now, let me give you a completely different dimension of how this changes some of the other, what we call as adjacencies that we have. The apartment design in parts of Australia are beginning to see shrinkage of kitchen space. They have more like a small coffee table and a basic kitchen, but the large kitchens are shrinking because people are beginning to order food from ghost kitchens, which is far easier and almost like home cooked meal. You have Zool, Kitchen United, Cloud Kitchens in US. You have Deliveroo in London and Paris. You have Panda Selected in China. And it's an entire new growth marketplace by itself. So the digital marketplace is at the intersection with the advantage of pop-up like, close to customer, bare minimalistic, real estate driven food delivery business. Now, as we know, the food aggregators struggle to make money, but with ghost kitchens coming in, hopefully across the value chain, both the people who make the food, the people who deliver the food end up increasing the margins across the value chain. But here is my takeaway. It creates an entire new segment of gig talent. If we thought restaurant business were informal, this is the informal business of the informal business sector. And it's not just a ghost kitchen. You will have another bunch of ghost workers that will add to the economy and contribute to the value that we generate. So that to me is my this month's curious and quirky takeaway. Now, Euromonitor pegs ghost kitchens as $1 trillion market in US alone by 2030.